Welcome to Research Matters, an online show that is all about communicating the research taking place at NUST in efforts to promote the university's research agenda and the impact thereof.
Welcome to another episode of Research and Innovation Matters with me, Nigel Mkwayira. Now today we're discussing an interesting topic, which is rethinking elderly care in Namibia. When systems fail, who carries the burden? Now on today's episode we're joined by Dr Mouyelele Haufiku from NUST's Department of Preventative Health Sciences. Namibia's population is slowly beginning to age, but the systems meant to support older persons are not evolving at the same pace. Families are stretched, services are uneven, and policy responses remain limited. Now, in this episode, we will unpack what happens when care systems fall behind demographic realities and how research can move beyond diagnosis to designing solutions that protect dignity, independence, and quality of life. Dr. Haufiku, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
Now, this title of doctor, I believe it's new to you in some sorts. Congratulations on recently attaining your PhD.
Thank you again.
Now, please tell us, how was your PhD journey? What did you learn? What did you discover, both in the academic sense of life, but also about yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for that. It's an interesting journey, and it's a journey actually, as you said. So when we are talking about a journey, one really need to be prepared, because if you are going on a journey, it means sometimes you would head south and then you realize that indeed you're on the wrong direction, you should go either north. Okay. But academic wise, it's very interesting. I actually learned a lot. I appreciate the knowledge and all the skills that I learned over the past 3 years that I've been involved in this study. Either it's designing of research methods, data collection, analyzing, and more interestingly, publishing. To have your work out there, contributing to the scientific literature, it was very interesting. And of course, myself, it's a matter of consistency. It's a matter of patience. I really appreciated you walk out a different person. You look things differently, because you probably have met a lot, and you probably also recognize that or appreciate that you are not the only one. Everybody else studies different. It's how, for example, they say, we're scared of getting married, but it's a different journey. It's different for everyone. So let's not get scared. So it's the same journey to say we all face our own challenges, but at the end of the day, what matters is resilience. You walk out, you know what's expected of you, and then you do that. So really, that's what I can say at this moment.
And think it's you came out at the end of the journey still smiling, still intact, still whole, and happy to carry on further. Yes,
indeed.
All right.
I appreciate that.
So looking at the topic at hand for today, when we hear about aging population, and we talk so much about Namibia being a young and dynamic population, that brings us to the question of today, like, Namibia's aging population is growing. Is it growing?
Indeed, it is. To support that, because with research, everything else needs to be backdated with data. So our 2023 census report is reporting to say that the population of our elderly, which is the population of 60 plus years, has gone up with 8.4% over the past 12 years, between the 2011 census and the 2023. So 38.4% is quite a huge number. That's to say. Increase, yes. And among our 3 plus million, older persons makes up about 6.8% of that population. So indeed, it's growing.
Now, why do you think this is not getting the attention it deserves?
Yeah, thank you for that again. So actually, I think it really has to do with policy blind spot, but also societal blind spot as well, because for a long time aging in Namibia was taken as a family matter. We should care for our elderly, and because of that, there are issues were not mostly being known, because it's a private issue, unless if there's an illness that came up, or maybe a certain poverty. To say, for example, during COVID-19, we have probably heard how our older person have died or had issues because of the complication, because of multi-morbidities. So in those instances, really is what is telling us that that's why they did not really receive all the attention that they deserve. But we, based on the population statistics that I just gave you, we also need to acknowledge that they are not just recipients of care, but these are still the household heads. Some of them, they are still the caregivers to some of the children or some of the grandchildren. Like my study, for example, is showing that the community dwellers or the older person who are living in the community had more dependents to care for than their counterparts in old age homes.
Okay, all right. Now, your research goes beyond theory and into lived experiences. What does aging in Namibia actually look like today for the average elderly person?
So for that, aging in Namibia is quite complex. Okay, it's not only about getting older, it's about one getting older with chronic illnesses. It's about one getting older with limited finances. It's about one getting older with transport barriers and even sometimes loneliness. For example, my study is picking up to say that our older persons are mostly battling with multi-morbidities, mostly be diagnosed with musculoskeletal disease and high blood pressure, which is affecting about 1 in 6 older persons. So they also had issues with transport. Because financially most of them are not capable. In instances to say that most of them relies mainly on old age pension that they are getting from the government, which will not be enough, depending on the dependents that are depending on them as well.
Now, and yes, I like the fact that you touched on pension and how it's not enough. But besides pension, I think from a system perspective, what are some of the things that are not going well within our system, specifically talking to the elderly?
Indeed. So I think really the biggest failure is fragmentation. Okay? Because we do not have all in one system. Our systems, for example, have issues with the healthcare system, have issues, for example, to say with insufficient geriatrics. In fact, we don't even have it as a training pathway in Namibia as yet. Looking into infrastructure, our old age homes are scarce, and those that we have are unevenly distributed. And so the problem is really not that nothing exists, is what the pieces that we have are disconnected and they are underrepresented. That's really the main issue. We have pieces here and there, but they are disconnected and they are under-resourced.
What do you mean they are disconnected? If I can just go a bit deeper into that question.
Yeah, they are not in one system to say. Healthcare is doing their own part, social part is doing their own part. In terms of the old age home, to say the private ones are having their own standards, the public one are having their own standards. So we don't have one system as a whole that is coordinating each of these interconnected elements.
So they're interconnected, but they're not speaking to one another.
Yes, indeed.
Now you touched a bit on the private care and public care. What are the disparities that you've observed between these two sectors?
So one of our study objective was really to see what is the capacity of the old age homes that we have in Namibia. So we had assessed the private ones and the public ones, and we picked that the private ones are mostly likely to be resourced. They mostly like to be well staffed. The infrastructure are mostly likely to be in good conditions, unlike our public ones. Although the other ones are expensive, our public ones are more affordable, but they are likely to be insufficient. They are likely to have a lot of shortages, like staff issues, infrastructure issues. So there's really such type of disparities between them.
So now, does this now become an issue of, is it a need or is it an issue of affordability?
So at the end of the day, it's becoming both. Because in terms of affordability, as I'm saying, that the private ones are a bit expensive than the public ones. So they also a need. There's a need, but it doesn't reflect to say that once you have a need, there's straight access. There are older persons who are out there with a need, but in terms of affordability, they cannot afford some of these services because really some of these old age homes, as much as they are up to standard, they are quite expensive. So their prices depends on the type of care that an elder person will need, and of course the type of facilities that you are being accommodated. Do you want a single room? Do you want a more luxury? So that's how they priced their institutions actually.
All right. And I guess the issue of affordability then leads us to more, I guess what the industry would know more as informal caregivers. Would you like to maybe touch a bit on that?
So
what is an informal caregiver?
So when we are talking about informal caregivers, which is mostly common in our country, these are caregivers that are caring for our older persons, most of them without formal training. Most of them are underpaid. Most of them are also burnout, and it's people they are providing care to say like from the past, because it's my mother or it's my grandmother, I should be able to provide. But really sometimes, depending on their needs, they also need this type of training, also better finances for their needs. Otherwise, at the end, it's both issues for themselves and as well as for the older person, because the older person will end up not receiving consistent care. They will end up with issues of poor treatment, poor medication, following up, and all those type of issues as well, if we rely mostly on informal caregivers.
Okay. And what then, I know you've mentioned a few, but what then becomes those additional implications, especially on the informal caregiver and not necessarily on the elderly person?
Yeah, so mostly the implication for our informal caregivers, most of them are likely now to have emotional stress, physical strains. They are also likely to have issues with no enough finances to feed their families, and that means that also the care that they provide to our older person will also be, not as at a level that they require as well. Because if they are not happy, then definitely the care will also not be happy.
Yeah, very true. And there's one thing that we always like doing on this show is not just to talk about problems, and I think that was one of the outcomes of your study and your research is producing something, a community-based model that works and that can feed into the Namibian system. Maybe you can tell us about this community-based model that you worked on.
Okay, so the community-based model is not an imported model. It's a model that I developed from the evidence that I found. So it's really grounded from the lived experiences of our older persons themselves, their caregivers, the social workers, the nurses, the old age home management, even up to the standard of our community leaders, because we also included in our headmen and the constituency councillors as well. So at the end, this model takes into consideration of 4 interconnected elements at the personal level, at the social and community level, at the health and care level, and also at the institutional level, all together to work as one to improve the well-being and care of our older persons.
Okay. Now you say that you work with communities and headmen and various entities. Which communities did you work with?
So my study took place, it was in 3 regions of Namibia. We stratified the regions depending on how the Minister of Health have stratified to say these are the northern region, these are the central, these are the southern, and we picked one region without replacement from each of these. So we included the Wangwana region, the Comas, and Haldap regions. Okay.
Now, some of the things that you found in any one of these regions, what are practical examples that you saw within any region?
Yeah, so they are quite different.
Yes.
To say, for instance, in terms of the old age home themselves, Wangwana is one of the most populated regions in the north, but it doesn't have any of the old age home to say.
Okay.
Meanwhile, most of these old age homes are mostly in Comas, Central, and the Rongo region. Haldap had one. So they are quite, also in terms of that, it means also now the awareness of old age homes and attitude differs per this old age home. The services also differs. And also there's issues of education as well. There was also issue of dependence. As I said, most of the community dwelling ones are mostly had independent than the counterparts in old age homes. So they are really quite different because of all of these issues. You will also expect the issue of transport difficulties to reach the facilities. For instance, Wangwana is such a big region, so some older person may struggle to get transport to the health facilities as well.
Okay. Now, what does this mean for quality of life for an elderly person who doesn't have access to some of this, either facilities or rightly trained caregivers?
So it means that it's because we also picked that as much as we have older persons in the population, the majorities are aging in poor health.
Okay.
In fact, based on the multi-morbidities that they are going through in terms of the issue of musculoskeletal illnesses, high blood pressure, the 60% of our older persons who participated in our study were mostly depending on daily medications.
Okay.
So in terms of these, there is really compromises of their autonomy, of their dignity, of their quality of life, and indeed most of them really rated their health status either as poor or very poor because of all of these type of issues. So they are aging, but most of them likely to age in poor health. And there's somebody who said it's not really always about adding years to life, but we want really to add life.
Yes. Oh, that's nice. That's a nice way of putting it. Now, what is, for the non-aging, the non-elderly community, how is their response to some of this information? Is it? I think when growing up, there was always this notion that if I send a parent or a loved one to an old age home or to a caregiving facility, it's almost like I'm giving them away.
Yeah.
I think that is. How is the response to caregiving to old age homes within the rest of the community?
Indeed, you are correct. And we need to take it both sides.
Yes.
For me, if there's a need and the service is there, let those who are in need get the service.
Okay.
For instance, when we're in the field, there is one household, because there were times that we have to collect data house by house. There was one household where we went in, a husband and wife, all of them 60 years and above, but they all could not see, but they could hear us.
Okay.
And they were only living with their mentally disturbed child as well.
Okay.
So you can just imagine the situation they were in, that if there was an available facility, we could take them there. They would definitely appreciate. So there are those ones that they appreciate, because we had a population of 46.7% of them said they would want to move to an old age home in the future if they needed care.
Okay.
Meanwhile, 53.7% of those said they could not. So the discrepancy is not that big anymore, because of the issues, as I said, of urbanization, of migration. So I'm like, those that will need help, let them not get help because there's no facilities. But if they need, let them get. But still, we should not also negate those ones that want to remain in their community, because some it's cultural issues, it's some of their most suitable positions. Because I can also relate, my grandma is turning 96 this year.
Wow.
Just imagine.
Wow.
She had 8 children, but she's only now surviving with 2.
Okay.
Now, that means that she had in her care a lot of her grandchildren from orphans. Now, you can just imagine if you would tell my grandma that you are bringing her to window, for instance.
Yeah.
She will not, because her reasoning will be that where will I leave my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren.
All right. Now, everything that we do at the Namibia University of Science and Technology is made in Namibia, all right, but is relevant for Africa and beyond. And I believe that your model is translatable on various platforms. Maybe you can talk to us about how this fits into the international context.
Yeah, indeed. So one of the first objective of my study looked into mapping studies in low and middle income countries, what issues, what approaches that they have for older persons. So with these, and also some of these findings were also included in the model, because the model is the synthesis of all the objectives. Okay. So we could also apply this to other contexts, more especially in the low and middle income countries. Of course, we need to look into some parts will definitely be compatible, but some we need to look at it with care in terms, for example, cultural issues, because cultural issues will be different. But the issues of geriatrician, the issues of caregiver training, the issues of transport, the issues of policy uneven or limited, those ones are mostly affecting most of the low and middle income countries. And that's why this policy, we can able to also apply it to other countries as well.
Yes. Now, coming right off that element of policy, where does policy stand in Namibia with regard to this?
Yeah, so Minister of Health, actually, they are doing good because as it stands, they have a draft. It's named Policy on the Rights, Protection, Care of Our Older Persons. But we just need to make sure that at least it's finalized, implemented, it's enforced, because that's how we are going to make people accountable.
Okay.
Because this is why we have issues of interconnections. But if we could have that, people could be accountable, because we will know that what is the role for each NGO, what is the role for each ministry and officers, for example. But now as it stands, I think that's really that's also holding us. It's still in the draft phase.
Now, if it prolongs in the draft phase and it does not get implemented, what some of the challenges that you think will come up?
So surely, if that happen, we expect to see stretches in already the stretched situation where we are in. We are expecting to see older persons who are coming up with complications of preventative chronic diseases to say. We are probably waiting to see people who have mistreatment, who are being abused, who are being neglected, because and those ones, the burden will go on like that, and that definitely will not come out right for the country. So we wouldn't want to prolong it. I hope that we are really going to come up with something and ensure that at least it work, because as I said, it's no longer business as usual.
Yes. Now we've spoken about the government and the systems and policies in place, but let me bring it back to you, Dr. Haufiku. Where to? What does impact look like with the work that you have discovered and shared, and where do we go to next?
Yeah, so we need, for this model, we need to just pilot it, okay, and see how it will work and take it up from there. But as it stands, this study has already 3 articles that are published out there that will really help to guide the government as well in terms of them finalizing this policy. So for me, when we are going to roll out these or implement this model, since this is our model, it came really from the findings from our country, from our people, we really just need to make sure that we involve all those that need to be involved. To say, for example, the Minister of Health, the local authorities, the churches, the NGOs, everybody who's involved should be, because like how we did it during COVID, we did it so well that it was amazing how you could get everybody else in one place. So it's best sometimes we do this before things gets out of hand.
Yes, ahead of time. And I guess this is the point of the research, to say that, listen, this is the signs that I see, this is the smoke that I see, and we need to address it, and we need to address it now.
Indeed.
All right, so now, addressing that, ultimately, who's responsible for the elderly? All right, is it the state? Is it we, the family? Is it society as a whole?
So it's all us business. It's it's not a 1% business. The state had their own part to say they finalize the policy, they make sure that the regulations are there, the finances are in place, but also the families still need to do their part. We still need their daily care. We still need their emotional support. Okay, and of course, what was the other group? It was the state,
the state, the family, and society.
Yeah, the society also is very, very crucial, because these are the people that will probably put in place the centers, where community centers where our older person can actually go and socialize. When they probably go for their patients, it's good. They go out, they talk to each other. They can. Some countries also have initiatives of exercising, as we are talking about issues of musculoskeletal disorders, high blood pressure. So they need to cheer up, to exercise among each other. So really, everybody else need to do their part. It's not only the issue of the state.
Yes, and this then translates into us becoming, as a nation, us becoming prepared for this aging population.
Indeed.
Okay. Now, I think coming to the end of our discussion, I'll just maybe put it back to you and say that, what would you love to either say or leave our viewers, our listeners this day about our population, what we can do and how we can be relevant and ready for our tomorrow?
The issue with aging is quite, years are going very fast. We are already in April 2026. So in a blink of an eye, you realize that Haufiku, 2050 from now, I'll probably be part of the population,
Yes.
60 years and above. So we need to take this serious. But while we are here, we shouldn't look at those who are already there down. We shouldn't negate them. We shouldn't, let's treat them with dignity that they deserve. Let's give them attention, our older person. Let's make them feel valuable still, okay? Because one day it will be us. And it's us now who is in this industrial revolution. We don't know how the world will be 25 years from here. So, but how to do this, as I said earlier, we really need to do what needs to be done. Their needs should be done. We need to work on our policies. We need to work on our finances. We need to work on our facilities for them. Because as it stands, the older persons in the villages, some of them only be taken care of by the young ones. So those ones that will need care, let them get the care they deserve.
Dr. Haufiku, thank you very much for joining us in this episode.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me as well.
All right. Now, we just had a chat with Dr. Haufiku, talking to us about how we can ensure that the system doesn't fail when we look at our elderly care in Namibia. We trust you enjoyed this episode. See you till next time.